And then we said it wrong on purpose.
What are you, Benny?
He was Commissioner Barney.
Barney.
All right, I think it is 6:30, and we are going to go ahead and get started this evening. Please welcome to the January 17th, 2023 meeting of the Conway City Planning Commission. We welcome those who are also viewing online with us tonight and those that are with us in person. And with that, we will begin with the call to order and roll call. Drew, will you call the roll, please?
Happy to. Rebecca Fincher.
Present.
Laura King.
Here.
I'm Drew Spurgers. I'm here. Alexander Bainey.
Present.
Adam Bell. Absent. Mark Ferguson.
Here.
Letitia Sanders-Jones.
Present.
Ethan Reed.
Present.
And Jensen Tilkey.
Here.
It appears we have a quorum this evening. Before we get started with the approval of minutes, I want to welcome to the commission our two members, Mark and Jensen. Welcome. We appreciate your service to Conway, so thank you for being with us tonight. And with that, we will review December 19th minutes, and I will take a motion for approval.
I move to approve. Second.
With a motion and a second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, the minutes stand approved. With that, I want to go ahead and just make everyone aware that the Conway Planning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council on public hearing items. Items reviewed on this agenda will be considered by the City Council as early as January 24th, 2023. Still getting a little used to using 2023. Items not approved by the Planning Commission may be appealed to the City Council within 30 days of the date of the Planning Commission denial, with exceptions of decisions made by the Planning Commission acting as the Board of Zoning Adjustment. So with that, we will move into our first item on the agenda under subdivision review. The floor is yours, sir.
Yes, ma'am. This is a request for preliminary plat approval for Lands End Phase 2. The applicant is requesting approval of a 44-lot subdivision located just west of Lands End Phase 1. The property is zoned R1. Proposed lots range from 0.32 acres to 0.43 acres, which is consistent with the minimum requirements for the R1 zoning district. The subdivision proposes access via improvement of Tyler Street and a continued extension of Whistling Straits from the reserve at Centennial Phase 2. There's a required north-south minor arterial indicated in the master street plan for this property. Based on the current needs, we support construction of the connection as a local residential street with dedication of right-of-way for a collector street. The development fronts on Tyler, which is a minor arterial. With our discussions, we've determined that the applicant should make improvements, the applicant should make improvements to collector standards with dedication of right-of-way for a minor arterial. Several corrections were needed on plat, which will be handled administratively. We would recommend approval of this preliminary subdivision with the following conditions: that the preliminary plat approval from all reviewing agencies shall be obtained prior to work commencing. Wheelchair ramp should be provided by the developer in accordance with the City of Conway Transportation Department standard details. A draft of any bill of assurance proposed for the subdivision generally describe proposed covenants, restrictions, and conditions applicable to the property included in the submitted plat. Fire hydrants must be placed at the furthest point of a lot in a residential subdivision is not more than 600 feet from the hydrant located on the same street. Variances must be approved by the Planning Commission and Fire Chief. Utility easements as required by Conway Corporation are needed, as are drainage easements required by the city engineer. All other applicable provisions of the City of Conway subdivision ordinance shall be satisfied and accounted to prior to preliminary plat approval, and receipt of an approved copy of the preliminary plat approval with approved street and drainage plans shall constitute authorization of the Planning Commission for the developer to proceed with the preparation of the final plat.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions from the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve staff recommendations. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, with that, the first review does pass, and we will move on to item number 2 under subdivision review.
Okay, so the next subdivision item is considering the West Rock Addition, which is a one-lot subdivision comprised of nearly 31 acres located east of the terminus of E.W. Martin Drive and north of William J. Clark Drive. The remaining unbuilt portion of E.W. Martin Drive right-of-way was vacated last December, and the applicant plans to construct a cul-de-sac to serve as an access to the property and in order to comply with the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. So typically, subdivisions containing fewer than 5 lots are considered minor, and they're reviewed administratively, but because this one has or proposes new street and drainage improvements, it's coming to the Planning Commission for approval in accordance with the subdivision regulations. Planning staff has been coordinating with the applicant, and as of this meeting, all required revisions to the plat and street and drainage plans have been completed, and all departments have approved the subdivision pending completion of the conditions of approval as indicated in your staff report. Staff does recommend approval of the plat pending completion of those conditions of approval. And if you have any questions?
Any questions from the commission?
Questions?
Thank you. Any discussion? With that, I will take a motion.
I move to approve with staff recommendations.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, with that, the motion passes. Want to commend the staff for your great work there. Thank you for that and for being so prepared. With that, we will move on to old business. And so we did talk about this first and only item, regarding the Master Street and Trail Plan at our December meeting, and it was tabled just as a reminder for the commission. And so with that, James, are you going to kind of coordinate our efforts here?
Yes. So there are no changes to this from last month, but for the benefit of folks on TV or I guess online rather, or I guess on Channel 22. Never mind.
It's a
Right?
the streaming maybe.
Right, Mark? It's Channel 22, correct, on our Conway Corp station. But for the purposes of that, this is an amendment of the Master Street and Trail Plan and adoption as a master transportation plan for the city. So currently with the Master Street and Trail Plan, there are no policies, and we have some assortment of different policies, like a complete streets policy that was adopted over 10 years ago. And so what this does is bring a lot of those provisions into one document and kind of provide a framework of a document for future updates to the master transportation plan, encapsulates those, additionally provides some design guidance for different forms of design with that. The main gist of this, it additionally adopts the standard details as part of the official cross sections for the master street plan, which is also something that hasn't been done previously, which is kind of somewhat important. The other aspect of this is related to the Baker Wills Parkway. It provides for an alternative cross section for this. This has been on the master street plan in one form or another since 1991. And the assumption with that has always been that it would be built with federal funding. Obviously, over 32 years, that has not happened. There may be future federal funding opportunities for that to be constructed, but the idea behind that construction is that it would be a 4-lane divided boulevard and connect to essentially connect from Hogan all the way over to the Baker Wills interchange. This has caused a level of consternation for property owners and uncertainty for property owners along the route because of the desire to improve it to those standards. That has meant that its location, it would be relocated, basically portions around Mountain and Mill Pond Road, into a new location. That is very intensive in terms of requiring right-of-way. And so we worked with CAPS in the last couple of years to kind of develop an alternative location for it, and understanding that some of the property along there likely will subdivide. And so we came up with an alternative for it that would improve it to a 2-lane cross section with the dedication for a future 4-lane boulevard. And then additionally, provide for a terminus at Old Military and into a roundabout, and then on the east side into Earnhardt Lane into a roundabout in that location as well. So provides some certainty. Essentially, that alternative would have the road follow Mill Pond and Round Mountain in its current alignment. So if the city were to get federal funding in the future and relocate or do improvements, they could. So this really provides two options, and the folks that have land along that corridor, it no longer sort of ties their hands, that they can be compliant with the master street plan and develop that property without the sort of the uncertainty of a 100-foot corridor running through the middle of their property.
Are there any questions for James?
Mhm.
Any discussion within the commission?
I think it's great.
Is this a public hearing item where,
I
I was thinking it was.
Do- We did the public, yeah, so just
Last month.
let's all get coordinated. So that's a great question. Thank you for that. We're confident we did the public hearing last month. So we are good to, since it was tabled, to go ahead and vote on that. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. Phone a friend, we appreciate that. So I think we can discussion within the commission, if there is any, and
Make a motion to approve.
Seconded.
we have a motion and a second. This does require a 2/3 vote, so it'll be 6 tonight. So with that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, with that, the
The
master.
second was Alexander, right?
Yes,
I know. You got it.
I like the check and balances. It's great. Okay, with that, the motion does pass, so thank you for that. We will move to our third agenda item and our last agenda item for the evening. This is the public hearing item, and it looks like Beth's going to take it for us.
So this is a request for a conditional use permit to allow a transmission tower in a C3 zoning district for property that's located at 1305 South Harkrider. Transmission towers are only permitted in any zoning district by conditional use permit, and they are not allowed at all in A1. The request is specific to the northwest 0.05 acres of what is a 1-acre lot. The proposed site is at the rear of the property, but it abuts railroad right-of-way to the west and A1 property to the north, and of course, it's part of a C3 property. The proposed design complies with Section 528 of the Conway zoning code, which is the section of the zoning code that outlines standards for transmission tower installations, with a few exceptions, and I want to kind of go over those because those lead into your conditions. The zoning code requires that all antennas, cabling, and wiring be internally mounted with none visible on the exterior of the tower. The applicant has proposed a monopole design, but they are proposing external antennas and cabling. The applicant has noted that internal mounted antennas do not carry a 5G signal with the same efficiency as traditional antennas, and that internal mounted antenna do not lend themselves to co-location, which is also encouraged by our zoning code. Staff does acknowledge that advancements in technology have occurred since the time that the zoning code requirements for transmission tower installations were developed, and recommends approval of the external antenna design, but as much as possible requiring all cabling and wiring to be located inside the tower. Secondly is fencing. The zoning code requires that ground-mounted accessory equipment and support structures be secured and enclosed with a fence not less than 6 feet in height. And if the tower is located within view of a public right-of-way or an aesthetically sensitive area, fencing should be made of a durable material such as brick or masonry. While the proposed location is at the rear of this site and it may not be visible from public right-of-way due to tree cover, the proposed site is adjacent to an A1 zoning district to the north, which has the capability or the possibility of being developed in a non-commercial way. The applicant is currently proposing a 6-foot-tall chain-link fence with opaque green slats and 3-strand barbed wire 1 foot above the fencing. Given the possibility for the non-commercial development to the north, and that while it is railroad right-of-way, it's highly visible from the rear in that aspect, staff does recommend that fencing be of brick or masonry, and that the use of barbed or razor wire be prohibited. If a masonry unit other than brick is used for the fencing, staff recommends it be split-faced or textured concrete block, and that it be sealed or painted. And the last item is landscaping. The zoning code requires that if a tower location is visible from the public right-of-way or an aesthetically sensitive area, additional landscaping surrounding the fencing is required. Again, this is located to the rear, and there is quite a bit of tree coverage. Quite a bit of it is deciduous. However, staff is amenable to accepting the remaining tree cover following only essential trees to be removed for construction. Provided that the fence is constructed of brick or masonry. Given that the application complies with Section 802.5 of the Conway Zoning Code and as conditioned, it will not likely negatively impact adjacent properties. Staff does recommend approval of the request with the 10 conditions outlined in your staff report. Do you want me to read those, or are you good? Read them? Okay.
We've
No,
read
don't
them.
read them.
We read them.
We've read them.
I think the training was effective and everyone has read their packet, so kudos to you, team.
That's perfect. Okay, that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Hang right there. Any
Yeah.
questions from commission? Look at that. We can be trained. With that, we will open it up. Is the applicant here, anyone to speak in favor? So as you come up, if I don't say this out loud, I will forget. Well, do you mind to state your name and your address,
Not
please?
at all. My name is Greg Ferris. I reside at 144 South Bay Country Court in Wichita, Kansas. Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. We concur with everything that staff said. I would just ask that you add to condition 3 that the fence can be brick or masonry. The way the conditions are written, it says specifically brick. She did say masonry would be okay. Brick's a little bit iffy for us, the way we construct these, but the masonry, we don't have a problem with. So if you just add that, I don't have any problem with anything else. Glad to answer any questions if you need some specifics.
We'll open it up to questions from the commission.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
I'll stand by if you have any questions.
Thank you.
I should have clarified. I did converse with the applicant in the week leading up to this, and we did discuss that staff is okay with masonry in lieu of only brick. So that was correct.
Okay. Are we comfortable going ahead and just adding brick to it without doing an amendment and all that? Is the planning
Masonry.
masonry, sorry, brick and masonry. Is the planning department okay with that? That's what it should say? Okay.
So we just need a motion that states that explicitly,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. The way that it is with and masonry. I think when we're
Right.
ready for that. So is there anyone to speak against this? I do not see anyone. So with that, I will bring it back into commission. Commissioners, discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request with the conditions and then include masonry in number 3 as indicated by the applicant and our staff. I can continue reading it, but I'm okay with making a motion the way it's stated.
Letitia has made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Would like to congratulate Letitia and Alexander on winning the motion and second tonight this evening. And so that concludes our agenda. Our next commission meeting will be on February 21st at 6:30. It will also be on Tuesday, is the 20th, President's Day.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, with that, I will take a motion for adjourn. Oh, no, wait, just kidding.
We will be having an open house for Oak Street Ahead on January 31st, located here. So
Tuesday, is that a Tuesday? The 31st? What's the time
I
for
believe so.
that?
Tuesday. Yes, the 31st is a Tuesday.
What time?
I think it's at, isn't it 5:37?
So open house Tuesday, 5:30 to 7, January 31st in this room. Okay, thank you for
Correct.
that. And I actually, before we adjourn, I assume, James, is this where we,
Is this your last meeting?
is this your last meeting?
A great pleasure to work with you all, and I'll miss you all and wish you the best of luck and best of luck for the city of Conway.
Certainly
James.
wanted to give you the opportunity to get that. James, we appreciate your service. Thank you for all that you've done. We wish you the very, very best of luck. They certainly are getting a great talent. So congratulations to you and your family and all that. And so thank you for your service. So.
Thanks. Yep.
And if you decide to come back next month, we'll do it again. Okay. So with that, I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you all.